Now we turn to the Constituent Services Office from the state of Missouri. Dora Shiro and Lisa Jones are here.
My name is Dora Shiro, and I'm the director of the Missouri Department of Corrections. We're very grateful to you for selecting our Office of Constituent Services as a finalist in the Innovations in American Government Award Program. Prisoners in every correctional facility file lawsuits about conditions of confinement. Although the national statistics are worrisome, for years Missouri's were worse. In 1993, 10% of Missouri's inmates filed lawsuits, more than twice the national average. At year's end, most of their cases were still pending at a rate nearly 3 times the 50-state average. Today, we have cut the number of lawsuits filed against Missouri by more than half. Better still, we've reduced the number of active suits 70+%, even as our prisoner population increased by over 50%. And the state has saved in excess of $2 million through reduced attorney's fees by corrections-based remedies. What happened? Missouri Department of Corrections developed a novel approach to tackle a national problem. While most states still define their problem as litigation, we no longer do. By 1994, we realized that the real problem we faced was our failure to address the issues that drove the litigation. When we shifted our focus from the lawsuits per se to the reasons why inmates filed them, we were better able to find and fix the root causes of legitimate complaints. This culture-busting perspective has inspired organizational activities that have cut our actual number of active suits dramatically. Our Office of Constituent Services was established to ensure that every interested party has easy access to reliable information about the department and the conditions of confinement in Missouri. By routing a range of questions, comments, and concerns to one user-friendly service center, we are now better able to capitalize on that feedback from the prisoners and the public to better identify root causes of legitimate complaints, capitalize on that feedback, and take those steps that continuously improve our system. The office is also a valuable resource available to the Governor and the General Assembly to address their constituents' concerns. The Office of Constituent Services has been particularly effective in reducing prisoner litigation in areas in which there has been significant court interest and activity, for example, health care. Please let me introduce to you Lisa Jones, our Constituent Services Officer. Lisa will describe how the office has identified underlying issues about medical services, introduced pro-social problem solving, and initiated corrective activities.
Thanks, Director. During the first months of operation, the office noted that there were a large number of complaints about medical care. So did the courts. Almost 1/4 of pending litigation regarded medical issues. To identify and understand the underlying causes for those concerns, we took a new approach. In consultation with medical staff, administrators, uniformed personnel, and inmate representatives, focus groups were conducted and 4 underlying issues were identified. 1, inmates did not practice healthy habits. 2, inmates did not have a good understanding of community standards for medical care. 3, inmates believed managed care meant diminished care. And 4, inmates believed that every death in prison was the result of poor medical attention. Our group developed a plan to address those issues. Educational materials were developed and distributed to the inmate population. We piloted a self-declared emergency process. The director began a pure mortality review panel. Medical units were accredited. Prescription renewals were made the inmate's responsibility. These activities, to name a few, significantly impacted our performance and their perception of us. Since then, medical lawsuits have been reduced 71%. As added benefits, grievances about medical care in our department have been reduced 50%. Best of all, contacts to my office have been decreased 50% about medical issues.
Thanks, Lisa. Our Office of Constituent Services is inexpensive to operate and easy to replicate. It does not require enabling legislation and is compatible with the laws of any jurisdiction. The American Bar Association recently endorsed our office as a problem-solving prototype for other correctional agencies. In May, the ABA published a manual for courts, correctional officials, and attorneys general. This publication, entitled Limiting the Burdens of Pro Se Inmate Litigation, made the following recommendation, and I quote, "Each state's Department of Corrections should establish a Constituent Services Office and should consider patterning that office after the office within the Missouri Department of Corrections." Thank you.
Thank you. Max Sherman.
would you elaborate on how you dealt with the clash of cultures?
Ordinarily, corrections is a pretty closed system. We close ourselves off from feedback from the inmate population as well as the public overall. That closed system is really counterproductive, particularly for agencies such as ours that are operating well in excess of our design capacity and are turning to the public to spend more and more monies to expand our systems. We were losing special opportunities to improve ourselves through correction-based remedies long before the court might impose its will on us and otherwise do so. And so by taking information in, we were able to better understand all the varieties of issues that were out there in the field, look beneath any individual complaint, see some underlying issues, provide that feedback to the actual line service providers in the facilities, work with them and others to develop the remedies that would work best for everyone.
Did you wake up one day and said, wow, let's take a different approach, or what triggered the different approach to the problems that were documented in litigation?
I'm fortunate to have worked in several other systems, and in those systems there has been some substantial involvement by the courts. This was clearly a way of doing business that really limited any department's flexibility, more so in times when they needed that discretion now more than ever before. And so with that as a frame of reference, coming into a new state first in a local facility and seeing the court's involvement there in one of our major cities, and then moving to the state and seeing the large number of lawsuits, we were ranking right up there, nationally, with no end in sight and substantial court involvement. Operating at 153% of design capacity at the time, it was real clear that we would have to do something very, very different, very fast to get back control and better serve the public in Missouri.
Barbara Roberts.
The health issue you just described, I want to take another area that I know there tends to be lots of complaints about and sometimes lawsuits, and that's families outside of the system. Can you talk about how the Constituent Office worked with those families and if there was an effect in those kinds of visitation areas and other things?
Want to do that? Yes, I'd love to. One of the first things that we noticed was that there were a lot of complaints from family members, for example, about visiting. So we not only addressed the issue of visiting specifically at facilities, we reviewed our policy, we updated that, but we also wanted to address the concerns that the family members raised about visiting and other issues. The beauty of Constituent Services is that it doesn't have to address only medical, it's involved in every aspect of the department. So not only did we address the visiting issue by providing them with additional information about visiting through a handbook that we developed for them, but we addressed all aspects of incarceration. So the family members could also become a partner in helping the inmate throughout his incarceration and work with us. So the book discusses all aspects of incarceration.
One thing to add on that Lisa said is, whereas grievances and lawsuits are open to inmates only, the Constituent Services Office is available to any person who has questions or concern about a specific individual or the system overall.
Dr. Shiro, there's a great deal of controversy about the way prisoners should be treated, whether they should be treated more with tougher ways than they've been treated in the past, or whether they should be treated in the way that you've taken as your approach. And I'm just curious about whether you have any evidence one way or the other what happens to them as citizens once they leave the prison system.
We are very concerned that the time that inmates serve, tough time, is served in smart ways so that when they go back to the street, they are not only civil law-abiding, but they are productive as well. Grievances and lawsuits are not practical, cannot be practically applied to the life in the community. This approach really models the kind of pro-social problem solving that we would expect of good citizens in the community. It is one of a number of examples of an underlying culture issue that we've embraced, we call parallel universe, where we are trying to run our correctional system as close to the way in which the community conducts its business as possible.